Hello everyone and welcome back to Modded Minecraft 1.19, where last time we put together this QIO system. As you can see, I'm actually taking much advantage of the QIO importers and exporters here in my ore processing center, and I have a load of items. I'm going to give you a quick tour of what I've got in here. Over 100,000 redstone, iron, osmium, coal, lead, tin, copper, cobblestone, fluorite, and lapis. I've got 72,000 gold, 22,000 diamonds, and a bunch of other stuff. And I've been using primarily this ore processing system to get it done. Now, last time I left you off with a bit of a cliffhanger because I wanted to cover the redstone adapter in its own little mini video. And there's a really good reason for this, and that's because I needed to play around with it a little bit more before I filmed with it, and B, also because it's a little bit complicated and I felt like it deserved its own video. Plus, I'm going to be covering some non-related stuff to the QIO redstone adapter in today's video that if you're following along in the playlist, you will be interested in. If you are not and you're just curious about how to use QIO redstone adapters, then you will want to watch the first half of the video, and then the second half you may not care about. So, first things first, to essentially break down the simplicity of it. QIO system, if you guys didn't see the previous video, is where you can store all of your items essentially on a hard drive. It compresses the matter into binary code, and you can pull that out and put it back in. And the actual server is up in my bedroom, which is way up there. Now, that is actually a waypoint that I set up. This mod that I have allows you to set up waypoints and teleport to it. I do not teleport to it, but I did set up the waypoints because you can see a whole bunch of them over there. That is part of something that I will explain at the second half of today's video. So anyway, the server rack is up there in my bedroom, and all the items are essentially stored up there, but we have wireless access to all of them using the portable QIO dashboard. Now, that's cool because then I can send items like ores and stuff into this system, and then I can pull them out using a QIO exporter, because you export out of the QIO system, so you use an exporter to pull items out, and you send them through the ore processing system. Now, as you can see, I have an importer here, and that's because I set up a whole nother chain of machines up inside of my house for uranium, because the uranium was taking forever since I was quintupling it. Everything else I was quadrupling. There's the second exporter on the ejecting factory. So that's how that works. This exporter is exporting things like redstone, diamond, emerald, lapis, coal, fluorite, and then this importer is just pulling those things directly out of here because that all happens in the enriching factory. And then, of course, the importer here is for all the ingots that are smelted up, and it is not set to have any filters because that would just be a waste of time. So the redstone adapter, which is made like this: 4 polonium pellets, a teleportation core, 2 ultimate control circuits, a redstone dust, and a redstone torch, allows you to set up automatic. Well, you can automate a lot more things using this, because what this can do is it can read the quantity of items, a particular item, in your QIO system. And then once you reach that amount, it will send out a redstone pulse. So what that will do, or a redstone signal, and what that will do is it will set up a control mechanism so that you can have automatic crafting of specific items that go into your QIO system, and you don't make them indefinitely. And you can have it all set up manually and automatically. So you don't have to manually dump. Like, for instance, if I had, and this is the example I'm using today, if I have the machine set up to automatically make infused alloy, then I don't have to go up there and manually dump iron and redstone to keep it from working indefinitely. Right now, I have a redstone adapter that's set up to make a specific amount of redstone alloy or infused alloy. So let me just show you what I mean by that. I'm going to take all of it out. And I have a lot of it in there because I just had a lot, but I have it set up to where once the number of infused alloy in the portable QIO dashboard, or any of the QIO dashboards, goes under 64, it will put more in. And let me just show you what that means. There you go. See, it actually didn't let me go below 64. So that, I know that was a little bit quick. You know what? I'll do it again. There's never a time when there's too much infused alloy. So I'm going to pull 64 out of the 78. And see how it's going up? That is because it is literally infusing right now and coming into this machine. If I, of course, put all these back in, the machine will stop. So you've seen the practical side of it, how it works. Now let's go and show you, well, how it's set up. So as you can see here, this is like my automation floor. As you can see here, I have an enrichment chamber, and it is receiving redstone and enriching the redstone into enriched redstone. The exporter here is set to just bring in redstone, and then it automatically ejects to this metallurgic infuser. So you can see the redstone is here, and the iron is here, coming in through this exporter. And then it is it's infusing. And do I have these upgraded? Yeah, I do. Nice. It is infusing infused alloy, or making infused alloy. And this importer is set to import without filter, because it's just going to do whatever it says. But to keep it from continuing forever and ever and a million years, I have set it up to where the importer is on a redstone adapter, a QIO redstone adapter. And it's not as complicated as it looks. I'm going to build a system like this from scratch today, so you guys can see how it works in practice. But the way it works is you put the redstone adapter, and by the way, this is important. You can put it on either the importer or the metallurgic infuser. It doesn't matter which. It just changes how the machine works. So for instance, if let's say I had a system like one of these automatic systems over here, and it was making something very expensive, like teleportation cores, right? I mean, you know, those things require, well, I don't have an example, but it's a lot of expensive things, right? So if I wanted to have one of these machines making it automatically, but I didn't want it to make a million of them, you know, and fill up every single stack of this, then I would put the redstone adapter on the actual machine, so that once enough of those items are ejected into the QIO system, it will turn off the machine and prevent it from actually crafting the item. But in a situation like this, where, I mean, it says redstone and iron, I mean, I have 100,000 plus of each of these, then you don't have to worry about, you know, oh, these things are not too expensive. They're not expensive at all. So I don't care if this machine fills up with items. What I care about really is just making sure I don't make them indefinitely. And so what I like to do is put the QIO redstone adapter on the importer to turn the importer off, which this is the machine that actually brings the item out of the machine and into the QIO system, and control how many actually go into the QIO system. Again, if this was very expensive material that we were working with, I would put the QIO redstone adapter on the metallurgic infuser itself. That way, it'll prevent it from making too many. And if I need the raw material in a different machine, it's not all coming into here and using it all up. So it's a minor detail, but it is very important to know the difference. So in this case, the QIO redstone adapter is on the importer, and it is set up to where it will watch for infused alloy. It tells you what it's looking for here. The trigger count is what you can change. So if I wanted to change it to 21 or 32 or 1000, you can do that. Now, of course, you can see it's going up now because I set it to 1000. So if I set it back to 64, it will stop. The stored count is how much of that item is actually in the QIO system. And then ignoring NBT false, I don't know what that is. I haven't seen anything for that just yet. I'm sure there's a way to use that. And if you know what that means, let me know in the comments. But so far, I know everything I need for my purposes. And I'm sure also, heads up, there are other ways to use a redstone adapter. I'm just covering the usages that I've found. Let us know in the comments if there are other ways other than automation of machines with these machines here, or for the formulaic assemblycator, or whatever. So now I am going to set up a system for making steel, and you guys know how to make steel, but in case you have forgotten, to make steel, you have to first get your hands on steel dust. You have to have a smelter. To get your hands on steel dust, you have to have a metallurgic infuser that has enriched iron. And to get enriched iron, you have to have a metallurgic infuser that has iron. And of course, you have coal for both of those. So that means I'm going to need an enrichment chamber, 2 metallurgic infusers, and a smelter. So 4 machines, no problem. I've got everything I need now except for the exporters. I've got 2 importers. I think I only need 1, but I need at least 2 exporters that I'm aware of. So I've got my automatic, like, built-in crafting table system set up to where I can make teleportation cores, and then I can either make exporters or importers. And the way this works, as you can see, I can't get the importer out of here, so I literally grab this teleportation core out of here and place it into here. And as I do that, of course, it uses these materials out of the QIO dashboard. So like, I've got the sticky pistons in here. That might be the last one, actually. I've got the regular pistons right there in that spot. I've got the ultimate control circuits, the polonium, but everything is set up and very, very convenient. So now I'm going to grab an exporter. I'm going to grab 2 exporters, actually. So let's put another teleportation core and another exporter. There we go. And that should be it, except, of course, for the redstone adapter. So I haven't actually crafted one yet. So first things first, I'm going to need a redstone torch. And then what else am I going to need? 4 polonium, 2 ultimate control circuits, and a teleportation core. So 4 polonium, 2 ultimate control circuits, and a teleportation core. There you go. Okay, so I've got everything I need now. Let's make this redstone adapter, and then I can keep my inventory very, very clean now, which is fantastic. The only thing I need to do next is get my hands on some power cables, which I should have. Okay, I've got ultimate power cables, not the best, but it's what I have. So let's set up this automatic system over here. Okay, I'm gonna put it. It's kind of an important one because it's steel, so I'm gonna make sure that it's kind of in central location. So quantum entangle porter set to power, and power is all set to eject. Very good. Next step is, remember, we have 4 machines: enrichment chamber, metallurgic infuser, and energized smelter. And of course, I'm gonna want these to be in the right order. There you go. So, unfortunately, this won't be centered, but that's fine. Let's place down the enrichment chamber here, 2 in metallurgic infusers, and the energized smelter. In fact, you know what? No, let's put this lined up just like so. It doesn't really matter, but it allows me to have the importer on the far right. That I like that. I don't know, something about it. So let's put the ultimate universal cables there, and that will allow all these machines to have power. Let's also slap all of the upgrades in here. There we go. Okay, and that is done. So now we just have to set it up, and it's a very simple thing. So I'm going to export coal into here, and it's very simple. So we're going to hit that, hit items, and then I have to grab some coal out of here and tell it to import coal. And of course, you want to use the item stack. You could put tag and tell it to import coal, but I prefer to be more concise and tell it, you know what, pull exactly the item I want, and the item I want is coal. So that should be it. It is now making enriched carbon, and I've actually got quite a bit of enriched carbon sitting somewhere. I know I've got loads of enriched carbon for now, but I've got the system set up now. I've also got some enriched iron that I'll be using to make steel before we set up the automation system. But that is that. So I'm gonna actually tell this thing, do not eject items just for now, but that's set up. So now all I have to do is tell it to eject, and that will come out into here. Now I also have to get the enriched carbon and have it come into here. So it has to come into both of these metallurgic infusers. So actually a better way to do this would be to put them, okay, this will actually work. So the enrichment chamber is now on top. It's going to eject enriched coal down and through this logistical transporter into here. So both of these infusers have access to coal. So now I need to give this infuser access to iron, and I don't want it on the front. I want it on the side. There we go. All right, same frequency, and now let's give it iron, and actually we'll go ahead and just tell this one to go ahead and do its job. So there we go. Okay, so now it has brought in iron. It will do that automatically, and before I tell it to eject, because it is going to begin creating enriched iron, I want to make sure that it is not going to eject, because I actually want to use this enriched iron and enriched carbon and stuff that I have. So let's just throw this into there. Let's throw this into there and throw that into there. So now the steel is being converted into, this enriched iron is being converted into steel. So now I'm going to tell this thing, hey, eject your enriched carbon. And now we have steel ingots. So then the last thing I need to do is put the importer, well, 2 of the last things. I'm going to put the importer here, and it's going to eject the steel that this machine makes. It's already set to items. And then I'm going to put the QIO adapter on top, and this thing is going to read steel, what are they called? Steel ingots, that's right. So, goodness, come on, there we go. Okay, so steel ingots, I've got quite a few in my inventory, but I want to make sure I make all of it. So I'm going to set that up. I'm not going to set the frequency yet, but I'm going to set this to 64. That way, once I have a reason to use steel, it'll get all the way down to 64 before this thing activates. So it's on. I'm going to set this to normal or inverted. I can't remember which one that has to be set to. It's inverted. Okay, so once this thing sets off a pulse, it turns this machine off. That's what inverted means. Otherwise, it would be if this thing sets a pulse, it would turn this thing on. So you can do that either way. This is the way that makes the most sense to me. Okay, so now that that is set, I'm going to burn through all of this enriched iron, and I think I've already used all of my enriched coal already. Wow. Okay, so I'm gonna manually burn through all this enriched iron just because I need to use it. And then I'm going to demonstrate by pulling the steel ingots out of here that this redstone adapter does in fact work. I guess there's no reason why I can't go ahead and eject out the enriched carbon. So now this should receive items. It's not. Why aren't you working with me, buddy? Ah, that's right, because it is a yellow. There you go. Yeah. So the actual fuel it uses to infuse is the yellow one. You can see because that square is yellow and that one's red. So you had to set this to yellow. Also, this one will also have to be set to yellow. So there you go. Now it is receiving maxed out enriched carbon, and this enrichment chamber is working entirely perfectly. Now, if I wanted to have a source of enriched carbon for the future, all I'd have to do is put an importer on this enricement chamber, and then put a redstone adapter on that importer, and then set it to like 64 or whatever. That way I could have some enriched carbon always in my QAO system as well. I hope this is all making sense. I realize it is kind of complicated, but it is 100% worth it and amazing. And you know what? I need to activate this because I'm getting more and more steel. Actually, you know what? I need to not activate that because I'm gonna need. I want to use up the rest of this enriched carbon or enriched iron. So yeah, I need to just ignore my tendency to not want to make too much for now. I'm just gonna set that to ignored, and it'll ignore this impulse until I'm ready for it to pay attention to it. I've put the last of my enriched iron in there, so now I can set this to output and eject items on. So now the enriched iron will be absolutely 100% full, which means this thing is going to continue to make, which means I need to now put this on inverted. So that's going to actually tell it no more importing. The steel will accumulate, and if I actually click this redstone adapter, it says, oh, I've got 844 steel in the QIO system. So if I actually just shift click and take all this steel out, and you know what? Here, let's actually type in steel ingots. There you go. So that I don't accidentally click other things. So if I get this number to below 64, you'll notice that it will actually start to go up again. So there you go. The redstone adapter is in fact working, 100% working. Okay, so simply put, the enrichment chamber is receiving coal from the exporter with the QIO system in hand, right? So you're exporting items out of the QIO system. So it's receiving carbon. It is kicking it out to both metallurgic infusers. The first one is receiving the iron. The iron is mixing with the carbon in the first one to make the enriched iron, which is then kicking over to the second metallurgic infuser, creating steel, and then it's kicking over to the energized smelter to create steel ingots. The steel ingots generally will go through the importer to go into the QIO system, but the redstone adapter is saying, nah, you've got more than 64, so we're gonna turn you off. We're gonna actually set up. We're gonna it lights up, right? So there's a signal. So to tell this importer, hey, turn off when there's a signal, you put it on inverted. If you want a machine to turn on when there's not enough items, then I'm assuming that means you do the opposite and you set this to normal. So that is how I generally use the redstone adapters. If you use them in any other way, any kind of different kind of way, let us know in the comments. I'll experiment with it in a future episode. But having the ability to have basically unlimited automatic infused alloy and unlimited automatic steel, and eventually I'll also probably do the reinforced alloys and the atomic alloys, which will require automated enrichment of diamonds, automatic refined obsidian dust, and I gotta crush that obsidian. It's just a big long process, but having automatic atomic alloy, reinforced alloy, infused alloy, all that stuff is super helpful. Okay, so that is a bit of the finale, I guess, for the episode. If you're just interested in the QIO redstone adapter, it's a super cool thing and I absolutely love it. Now let's talk about all these waypoints out here. If I go downstairs and if I go down to the this thing, right? What is this thing called? The fission reactor. Then you will know And you probably are very, very aware if you've played with this before, but this fission reactor, which is burning fission or fissile fuel, and I'll talk about this pad here in just a moment, but you probably know that if this thing is running during the nighttime, then the solar neutron activators are not working. As you can see, there's 2 of them. There's a reason for that. The solar neutron activators do not work when it is dark outside, so I am accumulating nuclear waste in this pipe, this barrel, and this pipe. That's 2.5 million millibuckets of nuclear waste, by the way. And then this tank here can hold the same amount of fuel as the fuel tank, which is 4.4 million. So in my experiments, the sun will come up when this is at about 1 million millibuckets of nuclear waste, so it doesn't even get to halfway full. And then once the sun comes up, the solar neutron activators start working, and then before even like noon, they've already burned through all this nuclear waste. And so I've got this thing set up where because I've got so much capacity for nuclear waste using ultimate tubes and such, I can run this thing even overnight and it's not a problem. And on that note, now let's talk about this dynamic tank. So I've got together a dynamic tank. It is literally a 3x3x3 dynamic tank, and 2 valves, one of them for the fissile fuel that's being made inside my house and one of them going into the fission reactor. And just the smallest dynamic tank you can make is 432 million capacity, which this thing is 4 million, right? The quantum entangled porter is 8 million. So this thing being 432 million millibuckets is insane. And for a future video that's coming up, and I'll just, you know, this is kind of like the off-script part of the video now, I guess, so it doesn't matter. Antimatter pellets, to make everything that you can make with antimatter pellets, which is what this machine is making over here, by the way, antimatter. To make antimatter pellets, all I need is a grand total of 10 of them to do everything I want. I've already done 1 of them. So to make the electric unit for the mecha suit, and then the gravitational modulating unit for the mecha suit, and then the teleportation unit for the mecha tool, which we haven't even made yet, that's 3, 6, 7. And then to make the antiprotonic nucleosynthesizer, I need 2 more, so that will be 9 total antimatter pellets. Now, you guys have heard me said many times, each antimatter pellet requires 10,000 uranium ingots, and 10,000 uranium ingots translates to 10 million fissile fuel. So the math is easy. If I need 9 of these antimatter pellets to do all this stuff, I'm gonna need 90,000 uranium ingots and 90 million fissile fuel. And as you can see, I've got 76 million in here plus 4, so that's basically 80 million right now that I've still got yet to burn. And I've already got 4 antimatter pellets in the chemical crystallizer. So I've got enough fissile fuel now to make all of the antimatter that I need to make. And I'm able to run this thing indefinitely because, once again, once the sun comes up, this waste tank starts to empty out, and these things burn through it really nicely. If you only have 1 solar neutron activator, and let's say you've built the exact system I have, then it won't work. Yeah, it won't burn through it fast enough, and by the time dark happens, one of these tubes will still have nuclear waste, and you'll eventually max out on nuclear waste and the fission reactor will explode. So use 2 solar neutron activators. It works out very nicely that way. So in a future video, probably next video actually, I will likely end up using at least one of these antimatter pellets, probably with a mecha tool video or something. All right, so now let's answer the question of what the heck all those waypoints are, right? I already explained what waypoints are, right? It's just kind of like a way for me to keep track of something on the map. Well, if I go into my map, if I go down to the south, you can see this is a grid of all of the various locations where I have ran my digital miner. And remember, the digital miner has a radius of 32, which means it covers an area of 64 by 64. And if this is the location where I'm placing the digital miner, then that means each digital miner needs to be 64 blocks away from each other. And I picked this spot because the coordinates was easy to do the math to figure out, okay, which direction and what the math would be to make sure it's 64 blocks apart. So I've actually run the digital miner in 49. I know this says 48, but I have a 0 here. So 49 total locations to pull out all of its precious minerals. And why is that an M? That says 6, but it's an M. I'm not sure. But this is really how you have to get the uranium. There's really no other way to get the uranium. Digital miners in a grid, And I'm really far away from spawn, and specifically I did that because I didn't want to take all the uranium away from spawn. So I'm in my own little world way away from spawn, and I have covered 49 64 by 64 block in laterally, you know, left and right, not down. Down is a lot further than 64 blocks, but covered this entire area basically from here, or like a little bit out here, all the way to here in every direction. There is no uranium ore in this entire area. And that's a large area. I mean, that's several hundred blocks in both directions. So yeah, that's how I've gotten my uranium, and I've run it through the quintupling system. And that's why I've also got tons and tons of everything else, because I mean, yeah, it's I just wanted, if I was going to run the digital miner, I wanted to get a large amount of everything, and I did that. I got a large amount of everything. So yes, here is here's the village, by the way, but here is where I've been pulling stuff out of the world, and this is how I've got all my uranium. So again, if you want every antimatter pellet that you can get, then you will probably have to do something very similar to this. And I just highly recommend that you start on a coordinate that is easy. The math is easy from this coordinate. I'm not gonna tell you what the coordinates are because, well, I've leaked my coordinates before, but no, you just go to 0, 0 on your own map, or if you're in a multiplayer, go to like 1 million or something like that crazy. And then you can easily do the math on how to get exactly 64 blocks away so that you're being most efficient with your time and energy. So that, my friends, is how I got all of my uranium. And I did that Airship Academy, which is what whenever I finished that build, that's what I called that spot, just to make sure that I knew how to get back here. This is, by the way, speeding through with the jetpack and the extra speed upgrade that I've got. This is not creative flying. So once I have creative flying, I think getting over there will be even faster. And that's coming soon, by the way, because that's what one of the units is. One of the units actually is gravitational modulating unit. Using experimental technologies and the tremendous energy of antimatter allows the user to defy gravity. You literally can fly without using any kind of technology. It's pretty crazy. So, oh wow, we're still burning through polonium. What's going on? I'm a little worried. Okay, that tube's empty. That barrel's empty. Okay, that tube is nearly empty. This is like perfect timing, actually. Watch this. So it's gonna burn through really fast, and then this tube, this polonium that's in this tube is being burned. It's going down slowly but surely. Still not dark yet. And once that tube empties, this 2000 polonium in the supercritical phase shifter will also empty out, and then we'll ultimately end up with more and more antimatter. So yes, there you go, guys. So I think that pretty much wraps up what I wanted to discuss in today's video, guys. The QIO redstone adapter, what all those waypoints are. Now I can get rid of most of them, so it's a little bit cleaner. And yeah, next time, guys, mecha tool and antimatter pellets and some of the most epic things that you can do at the end of Mekanism. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to post your questions down below in the comments or on my Discord server. And don't forget that you can join this server simply by becoming a $10 member. Link for that is down below in the description, or smack that join button. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you all next time.